Hello to anybody that is there currently. We're going to wait about half a minute to a minute as Zoom populates. Then we'll get going. The attendees are populating. Just wanted to say something so that you can test out the audio and make sure that you are indeed hearing it. We're just silent for a few moments here before we get going. All right, I think we got people in here now. Just for transparency's sake, our guest today ran off to go grab a power adapter for his computer to make sure it doesn't die. So as soon as he gets back, we'll get things started. Right, there's Will. Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Hey, no problem. We are now live. We were just stalling for a little bit anyhow to make sure that everybody who has signed up is in through Zoom. There's always a little bit of delay between starting the broadcast and people popping in, so that was good anyhow. So I just want to say hello and welcome to everybody to today's webinar. Essentially, I'm not going to take too much of the time. I'm going to pass things off to Richard and Will. But I do want to welcome you. There's going to be a Q&A session at the end. However, at any point, we do encourage you and welcome you to submit your own questions, probably through the Q&A console of Zoom would be the best way to do it. Although you can also feel free to send us some messages through the chat. And we'll address some of the questions as we go if it seems to make sense. Otherwise, we do have a period at the end where we're going to address that anyhow. So that said, I'm just going to step into the back and pass things along to Richard, and he'll take it from here.
Okay, thanks, Josh, and welcome everybody to this Innovators series. This is the agenda we're going to cover through today in the next half an hour. Obviously, this is all about CRU, and Will Blake presenting about how they use analytics and doing so Pyramid. So it's going to follow through this agenda of just an introduction to CRU and look at some of the data environments that CRU, some of the challenges that they faced, how they've solved that. What's the current environment like in terms of analytics and sort of plans for the future? As I say, it's my pleasure to introduce what we call the Analytics Innovators series. It's all about shining lights on organizations that are using analytics to drive excellence. And when we say excellence, it's all about how do those companies use analytics to dramatically improve business outcomes, create repeatable and sustainable value. So what I'd like to do is introduce Will Blake from CRU. I'll let him introduce his background, his role, and in also doing it, so just give you a background to who CRU are. So, Will.
Thank you very much, Richard, and thanks for inviting me to join the webinar today. So just a bit of background about myself. So I'm the Director of Technology and Analytics at CRU. So I'm responsible for the technology function, which includes data analytics, product delivery, infrastructure, and cybersecurity. We're a global business, so we're spread across 8 different countries. And I've worked at CRU for 15 years, and before that, I worked as a geophysicist in the oil industry in a very data-intensive role. So I've always worked in analytics in some form, and then I've moved across onto the technology delivery side. So CRU's a business information company, and we provide business intelligence on global metals, mining, and fertilizer industries across the world. So we've been around for just over 50 years, and we provide market analysis, price assessments for commodities, consultancy, and also global events. And I suppose in many ways, which is different, we are an analytics business by our very sort of nature of what we do. So we process data, and then we sell that data onto our customers with analysis as well. So it's very important for us to get our analytics structure and architecture correct, because it's really where we drive all the value for our business. And in terms of what we cover in those markets, there's over 40 commodities, which cover everything from steel, aluminium, copper, down to some of the smaller things in battery metals such as lithium and cobalt. And as mentioned, we're spread across 8 offices. It's very global in nature. So the delivery across a dispersed geographical region is very crucial. And we have customers in about 180, 190 countries across the world. So that gives a bit of background about myself and also CRU as a business.
Okay, thanks, Will. I guess as a starting point, it's always good to understand sort of where you came from in terms of your organization's data and analytics structure, and I guess some of the sources, technologies that you're currently using, just as a bit of background for the audience. So you give us a bit of enlightenment on that.
Yeah, so I suppose I've been fortunate to see the whole digital transformation journey, because I've been here for 15 years. So really, when it came in 15 years ago, we're a paper-based publisher, essentially. So we produce lots of paper-based reports. All our data is locked into spreadsheets or written, actually in written form. And the business is very siloed as well. So all the different departments worked in their own sort of areas. There's very little sharing of information between those different areas. And data was used obviously quite heavily in our products, but it wasn't used in terms of a commercial context in terms of running the business. So it's all very fragmented. But I suppose that reflected the sort of position of many companies 15 years ago. I mean, analytics and data architecture was still in its infancy back then. But it's gone through quite a rapid transformation. So in terms of our delivery to customers, we've moved from a paper-based publisher to a completely digital data business. So we don't print anymore. We've stopped all that. Everything's delivered over the web to our customers. And the whole company's relied a lot more on data to make decisions and to run the company efficiently. So I think in terms of what we have, and the way I look at it is we have 4 pillars of data. So we also have all our commodity analysis data, that's the bulk of the value of our business. And that's all the data the analysts collect and manipulate and then recast out to our customers. We also have the more traditional areas such as sales data, finance data, and HR data. So the more enterprise data sets which we use to run our business. And we've done a lot of, in terms of describing the infrastructure, we've done a lot of consolidation. So as an example, all our customer data and all the associated processes with customer data has all been collapsed into Salesforce. So we just use one platform to run that entire sort of ecosystem of data. And that provides a very rich data set, so we can see all the touch points, right from a lead coming in terms of marketing, all the way through to opportunity sales, and then all the commercial relationship around that and the marketing relationship. So we can see that whole customer life cycle. So it's a very rich data experience. That's all stored within Salesforce. We obviously utilize Salesforce analytics, but we also bring it out into Pyramid analytics, so we can combine that with other data sets. So we have a lot of web analytics which we pull off from our websites, so we can see what our customers are doing, what they're consuming, and we can combine that with all the sales and financial information to get a holistic view of how our customers are performing, and also how our business is performing as well. Our commodity analysis data is processed in a mixture of data platforms. These are majority SQL based, and I'm afraid also the ubiquitous spreadsheets as well. I mean, we as an analytical business, we do love spreadsheets, and we still have a number of those within the business, and they're still quite critical. But those are gradually getting moved across into more consolidated data platforms. And in terms of our environment, we host everything in Microsoft Azure. We're heavy users of Office 365, and then we use really Pyramid Analytics as it's kind of the glue which pulls it all together to allow people to access data and visualize it, and also hooks into data modeling tools such as R and other statistical modeling packages which we use.
Okay, I guess with all those different data sources, I guess you had some data challenges in terms of typically maybe quality or availability. How did you use Pyramid to help address some of those issues?
Well, I mean, Pyramid's in a way, it's been Pyramid hasn't solved the issue, but it's been the kind of the focal driver to get there. So we made the decision that we wanted one place for people to go to get their information and data, because there's a huge amount of inefficiency of people not being able to find data because it's spread across multiple systems, or they've got to learn multiple reporting systems to access information, and they can't get the benefit of combining different data sets together, because often when you can bring a data set from finance and a data set from, say, HR, and then by putting those together, you can get a different analytical view. And it's quite hard to do that when they're running in different silos. So I suppose from the start, we took quite an architectural approach of looking across the business and rationalizing our application architecture. How can we fold different data sets and processes into single platforms like Salesforce, or our HR data is all folded into one HR information system. And then we could use Pyramid to overlay on top of that to pull the data from the different systems and present it in a unified view for the business or any of the users across the company. And data governance has been very key to that. So before, I suppose, separate teams decided their data structure, all the data naming, all the metadata on top of individual data variables. So we've formed, it's in a way, Pyramid's been the focal thing to form data governance committees. So we have a committee which discusses data governance, where we agree on terms, metadata, and how we're going to process certain data items. And it goes all the way to algorithms and transformations. What common transformations we're going to use across the business. So that's been a very important thing, because it's just so vital to get consistency in your data sets to really harness that value. And Pyramid really helps with that, because it has very strong data governance functionality, which helps you find data, but also just track where that data's come from and its sort of data life cycle through the business.
Okay. I guess moving on from the sort of the data or technology side, I guess obviously there was a need within the business to improve on analytics. I guess it'd be good to understand what some of the challenges you were facing and what drove you, I guess, to go down the analytics path to try and solve some of those. Again, in doing so, I guess it'd be interesting to understand some of the pain points you went through.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a good example was just within sales, all the sales data coming off. So we were using a platform for all our sales orders. I mean, a lot of our revenue comes from subscriptions, so we've always been a subscription business. So that's obviously quite a key. Yeah, that's the key driving metric for the business. So you've got sales revenue, and you've also got deferred revenue is very important for that. And I think one of the challenges there is the sales team produced its view, and then the finance team had their view, and they were in different systems, different data nomenclature, and as a result, particularly I sit on the executive team. So there is, you have discussions around two people presenting a different picture of essentially the same data. And I suppose the challenge around that is we spent more time talking about the veracity of the data, like where does it come from? Is it correct? Do I trust it? And people working out what the difference was, rather than focusing on, okay, this is the data and how we're going to analyze it and make decisions off the back of it. So those are a lot of the challenges, and there's a huge amount of time absorbed by people just preparing reports or preparing analysis on data because it was all fragmented and took a long time to pull together. So I think one of the big steps there is just by integrating our technology stacks and bringing that into a unified view on Pyramid, it just took away all that extra work, all that sort of lack of trust around data, and as a result, we can just focus on making decisions and using the data sets and getting value from them.
Right. I guess that sort of leads on to, I guess, you've mentioned you've had different data sources, Salesforce, you've got use Office 365. I guess it'd be good to understand the sort of process you went through saying, well, I'm developing my analytics strategy, but how did you sort of land? What was the evaluation process you went through to land at maybe using Pyramid? I guess it would be good to understand that, given some of the other technologies you already had in place.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of choice in this space. So I think the first thing we did was look at our, as I mentioned previously, just looking at our application and data architecture across the business, because that's kind of your fundamental building block. So we focus a lot on application rationalization, retiring certain older applications and bringing things together into more centralized platforms. In the cloud technologies is obviously a driving force behind that. So we've always adopted a cloud-first strategy, mainly because I guess it's a more agile approach, but because we're a global business, it allows everyone to have equitable access of information wherever they're located. So I think once we've done that data architecture, we consolidated on a database format, which is a SQL, and we've now moved that on to Azure SQL in the Microsoft Azure cloud, and then we could go on to choosing the BI tool. So in terms of how do we did the process, and we looked at over 20 tools on a sort of long list. We did a desktop exercise to go through those. We brought that down to 5, and then we had very detailed demonstrations and interviews with those providers. The core reasons why we chose Pyramid, it integrated very quickly with our technology stack, so it could bolt on directly onto SQL. It goes on to other data sources as well, like Salesforce, but it's pretty much out of the box, so you can take it out within a couple of weeks. We're already up and running, had it installed, and we're already visualizing data through the Pyramid front end. So that's a key thing, because some other technology, you have to kind of rebuild your data stack rather than just sitting on what you've already got. It's got integration with data analytics processes and transformation. A lot of we don't just aggregate data. we do huge amounts of transformations. There's a lot of complex algorithms, econometrics, which happens across our data sets. So it had to integrate with tools like R and other statistical modeling packages. And Pyramid, yeah, tick those boxes. And also data governance, where it's vital we have a sort of hold over our data. We understand what data we've got, where it's come from, who's using it, where it's residing in the business. Just seeing that whole sort of data supply chain, because we need to understand that. So that having those features, and also the data pipelining tools, be able to bring data in, transform it, and then move it on to its next destination.
Okay. Oh, sorry, light's gone out. I guess if we looked at sort of analytics environment today, so we've heard about how you got here. I guess if we were to go and talk to your sales or finance or consultants, what do you think is they say is the real benefits that's been delivered by analytics to them as an end user?
Well, I think the benefits, they've got access to more data. So for a salesperson, if you went 10 years ago, they basically only had access to their sales data, what they'd done, and that's probably if they collated it themselves as they sold. So now they can see, they have complete access to all their own sales information. They can pivot that data. They can see that in relation to different regions or different products, how that meets their targets. They can also look at their renewal rates, and they can do all that themselves. And they can also look at the rest of the team, the performance of the business, and they can also look at the web analytics. They can see how their customers are using the delivery website. So that's all the consumption. So they have all that information at their fingertips through one portal. So they go to Pyramid, and they can get that. So from their experience, it's a lot richer experience. They have a lot more information, and it's faster and more efficient.
Okay, I guess questions. So I just checked the question coming in from Steve Grantham. Question: are you using SQL Server analysis services very much, or mostly building data models within Pyramid?
Yeah, so it's a mixture. I mean, I think we've come from the analysis services background, so we had quite a few data cubes which we'd already built, and we still utilize those quite heavily. And that was one of the key things for Pyramid, that it hooked directly into analysis services. And then when we're trying to build things faster, I suppose, or if you don't always need a cube, so that's where we use the data modeling functions within Pyramid. So it's a bit of a hybrid approach.
Okay. Obviously, we've heard about business benefits, but I guess for you and your role, what have you seen as the sort of technical benefits of using a platform like Pyramid?
It's definitely it's more when you consolidate onto one bit of software. There's less overhead in terms of training. So we got we've got a lean team.
Yep.
And they've become real experts in using the software. Because they don't have to worry about using multiple tools. And then just from a cost perspective as well, I mean, if you have a number of BI tools, it does add up in terms of not only physical licensing costs, but also managing all those vendor relationships, and really building a partnership. I think if you just focus on one tool, it obviously fits with our strategy, but we've built a good partnership because we've got the time with Pyramid Analytics, and we can get that knowledge and transfer of information across.
Okay, so so what's next in the sort of roadmap for analytics at CRU?
Well, obviously it's an ongoing journey. So I mean, we're always striving to make our data architecture cleaner, more consolidation. So we are focusing around the scalable platforms like Salesforce and Microsoft Azure, Microsoft 365 to store all our information. We're moving into the more advanced areas of analytics. So now we're consolidating data. We're getting a lot of benefit by bringing different data sets together which never resided together. So from very sort of dispersed data sets. So we can create more value from that. So a good example is we do a lot of analysis on costs of mines, those production costs of mines and smelters and refineries. So we have large models which calculate the costs of those. And now we can pivot into carbon emissions. So we can calculate the carbon emissions of all those mines, smelters and refineries by overlaying more data sets and more calculations on top of that. And again, we can use the BI tools to help visualize that data and aggregate it together. So yeah, I think it's more about it's just increasing our data sets, using different data sets, bringing those in, and then moving into some more advanced transformations using we're using tools like R. We do a lot of work in econometric modeling, and then using some of the AI functions and machine learning to transform the data further.
Okay. Right, thank you. So at this point, I'm going to open up for Q&A. So thanks, Will, for that. Let me just check on the panel. Got a question coming in here, Will. What kind of training was required to get your users to a point where they were confident with the product?
Yeah, I suppose, well, there's two types of users. There's the kind of super user, the people who really build the detailed dashboards and reports, and they're more BI developers.
Yep.
I mean, I was fortunate enough to have a couple of developers who, I mean, they'd use a number of BI tools in previous roles, so they picked it up, and we had a concentrated 3 or 4 day training session. There's a lot of videos and extra material made available. So based on that core training and on the job training, they've picked it up fairly quickly, because a lot of the concepts are very similar to other tools, whether it's Power BI or Tableau or Click. It's similar conceptual things. It's just learning the functionality. And then for the business, it's very quick. If they're not building complex dashboards, they're more consumers. It gets pretty much covered off in an hour's training, and people are quite happy using that, and then pivoting data and filtering it and accessing different data sets within the tool. So it's a pretty low barrier to entry. Okay,
excellent. Another questions are coming in. What kind of reporting do you do with Pyramid? Is it more sort of senior management board reporting, regular monthly reporting, or is it sort of day by day? Or use it across the whole spectrum of the organisation?
Yeah, I mean, it's used across the whole spectrum. So I suppose the sales team use it for a daily tool. So they're obviously, they look at it, see their general sort of picture of their sales. They also, as I mentioned, all the web analytics. So that's very live information coming in every hour, so they can see how people are using the websites, and then they feed that into their sales discussions. I mean, finance is definitely like more monthly reporting, quarterly reporting, etc. And then some of the slides which were shown just whilst I was talking, the analyst used that to visualize the commodity data. So you can see some geospatial maps. So the analysts use that to plot all the assets, say all the aluminium smelters in the world, and then they can drill into that and look at production and aggregated production across different countries or companies. So it's quite broad, quite a mix.
Right. Another question has just come in. Do your actual customers access their data primarily through Pyramid?
No, not yet. So most it's all internal, because I suppose because of the nature of our business, we actually build bespoke data tools for our customers. So they've got a lot of functionality in terms of you can access data, you can analyze data, you can run scenarios. They're almost they are web-based models, so they can run a lot of scenario functionality on that. So because we're selling that as a product, we build those to specification, and Pyramid is just the internal data management reporting tool.
Okay, excellent. So that looks like the end of all the questions. So thank you for those people that did submit some. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Will, for your insight and into how you're using analytics within CRU and obviously using pyramids. So thank you for that. And at this point, I'll pass back to Josh. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Will. Yeah, I'll keep it quick. Thanks again to everybody for joining us as well, whether it's through Zoom, watching us live on YouTube, or catching this on demand on a various number of platforms. If you want to learn any more about pyramidanalytics.com, please visit us at Pyramid Analytics. Or sorry, if you want to learn anything about Pyramid Analytics, visit us at pyramidanalytics.com. And by all means, feel free to reach out to us. If you're registered for the Zoom webinar, you'll receive a follow-up with the on-demand link to this. If you reply to that email, we'll make sure that your questions and thoughts get to the right party. If you're a customer of Pyramid Analytics and you're interested in participating in a future Analytics Innovators series webinar, please reach out because we'd love to chat with you about that as well. And I guess otherwise, just stay tuned. We'll be announcing our next in the Analytics Innovators series in the near future. We hope that this session's been useful and interesting and enlightening, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.